You're a startup founder. You think your product is amazing and feel like more people should be buying, but the road is long and slow. It feels like you're stuck. There's always one thing I ask startup founders. Have you talked to your customers? They almost always say, heck yes, we talk to our customers all the time. But what I find is they're either selling or trying to improve their product. These are not customer-focused conversations. If we can get curious about our customers, then we can uncover critical insights that will help us build to the next round. I'm Anna Furmanov, and welcome to Building with Buyers, a show about startup growth where I'll explore how customers help startups build to the next round. Welcome to Building with Buyers. I am your host, Anna Furmanov, and today it's all me. I want to tell you a story about my son because it's going to help explain why so many companies struggle with their marketing even when they have a great product. I have a deeply feeling kid, DFK for short. Maybe you've heard of this before. He's a good kid. He has a really hard time with his big emotions. It could be a small thing like Legos not snapping together right, or finding out that his plans suddenly changed, or having unexpected food at dinner. This could easily spiral into a 30-minute meltdown. And so for years, I didn't get it. I was like, what is going on? And I assumed I knew what to do because my daughter, she's totally different kind of kid. I was parenting him the exact same way that I would parent her, which it just goes to show that I really didn't do it properly. I was speaking the wrong language. It did not resonate. He's a different kid. He had a hard time with his big emotions. This was just not something I knew how to deal with. So it didn't work. And it got to the point where he was having meltdowns every single day. Then I learned what was actually going on. I discovered this app called Good Inside. This is not an advertisement. I promise. I do not partner with them. I think they're amazing, but I do not partner with them. And so once I understood him better, his needs, his triggers, his desire for autonomy, everything changed. I mean, I was shocked. I could finally say the right words and take the right actions. And we actually connected. He listened to me. There were less meltdowns. It just took a few days and I could already see things were changing. So you're probably like, what the heck, Anna? Why are we talking about your son? Why are we talking about feelings? Here's the point. This is exactly what happens in marketing. Your prospects, they are not throwing tantrums. I get that. That's a good thing. But if you don't understand them as whole people, they are whole people. They're walking around. They're thinking about things. They're frustrated by stuff. They have desires. They're afraid of things. They're aspiring to do stuff. The workarounds they're cobbling together. If you're not understanding them as whole people, then you're speaking the wrong language. They won't connect to what you're saying or showing them. They won't listen to you, and they just definitely will not care. And so that's why I created the Customer Insights Roadmap. It's a 4-phase process that helps founders and marketing teams understand their customers deeply, translate those insights into clear and compelling positioning and messaging, and then scale growth in a way that works for your specific target buyer. It's the exact process I take my clients through over 3 months, 6 months, 9 months plus, and it all starts with hard work. It starts with real conversations with your customers. The human stuff, right? Let AI take over the non-human stuff, the real conversations, this deep critical thinking stuff. That's the hard work. That's the stuff that humans need to spend time on. I fully believe this. So we run this program, and it's not uncommon to see faster sales cycles and even 4x sales. Most companies think they know their customers. They assume they know the problem. that their customers are having. They assume they know how to talk about this problem. They assume they know why people are buying their product. But the truth is, if you're assuming, your lens is skewed, you're too close. You're too close to the product. You're too deep in your own beliefs. So you have to do the hard work to get out of your head, to get out of your team's heads. Talking to a customer for 45 minutes, 60 minutes, sometimes 90 minutes. I've had conversations that are as long as 90 minutes. You're listening, you're not rushing them, and you're not outsourcing this work to a survey or a chat bot. This is real human to human conversations. That's the foundation. So let me break down the roadmap for you. Phase 1, I'll call it the marketing foundation and go-to-market plan. I really started thinking like, should I call it the marketing foundation? Should I call it the customer foundation? Should I call it the business foundation? Because marketing foundation makes it seem like it's only used by marketing, which is not true. And I'll explain that further. So phase 1 begins with deep customer research. Start by interviewing your customers 45 to 60 minutes each. You dig into their world with what I call a whole person lens. What does that mean? So I'm looking at their background and context, their role, their day-to-day, what else they use to get their work done. I'm looking at and exploring their challenges and pain points, and this is both functional and emotional, not just what's broken for you, but how does that make you feel? Why does that matter to you? Questions like that. Their current approaches and workarounds, and more importantly, why those didn't work. Their discovery and decision-making process, so how they found you, what mattered to them. Their actual usage patterns, the real use cases, not just the ones you envisioned when you built the product, the ones you wanted as the use cases, right? So lots of aha moments come from digging into customer use cases. The unique benefits and outcomes they've experienced, again, functional and emotional transformations. So when they say easy to use, that is not a unique benefit. When they say great customer service, that is not a unique benefit. You got to dig deeper. What makes it easy? Why is it easier than something else? Those are some examples. And I capture exact quotes, those sticky phrases that will resonate in the market. That's really important. When it comes to finding useful insights, here's something most people miss. I look for patterns, yes, but I also look for the weird stuff. Most people focus only on what repeats, the patterns, but it's actually often the outliers, the unexpected use case, the surprising phrase someone said, the strange workaround someone talked about, that really unlocks your true differentiation, and I listen for that. If you want to hear more about this, listen to episode 253, What is a Useful Customer Insight, to learn more about how to find those gold nuggets from customer conversations. Customer research only becomes useful when it has 3 things. Number 1, evidence, real stories and data coming from your customers. 2, meaning, which are those aha moments, what it says about your market. And 3, action, what you're actually going to do with that information. Without all 3, it's just useless noise. Okay, still phase 1. Let's keep going with the marketing foundation, customer foundation, business foundation. I'll figure out a name for it at some point. From those customer conversations, create a 10-slide marketing foundation deck, not a bloated 50-page messaging doc that no one reads. This is designed to be shared, referenced, and updated as the market shifts. It can be a deck. It can be a 1-page doc, but the point is it needs to be short and to the point and usable. It includes things like the problem you solve, why you exist, your market category, your target buyers, what the product actually is, how it's different, your top unique benefits and features, outcomes from using your product, competition, and a positioning canvas. This deck becomes the jumping off point to help you create or update your website messaging, your sales deck, marketing assets, social content, sales emails, and even creative marketing campaigns. So that's what I mean by maybe I shouldn't call it a marketing foundation deck, because it really is the jumping off point to be used by so many different departments. Now that we have these insights about our customers, how can we be more creative with our marketing campaigns? That's another way to think about these insights that we just got. Definitely don't miss out on the opportunity to get more creative with your marketing. Here's the magic: pulling in direct quotes from customer conversations so the language isn't invented internally, is how your customers are actually talking right now. This is what helps your team rally behind one voice. Before we keep going, I want to talk about how to get your team to rally behind one voice. The larger the company, the harder this is to get right. Here are 3 recommendations. Number 1, getting the business leader involved early. So you don't want positioning and messaging to one day just be a surprise. Hey, here's what everyone's going to use. Hope you love it. You want people to be bought in from the start. This person, right, the business leader is usually the founder, the CEO, or the business unit leader in larger companies. Also consider folks like the head of product, the head of sales, the head of marketing, obviously, and head of customer success. So the second recommendation, make it super easy to share, use, and update. Again, I mentioned this. That's why I'm such a fan of a 10-slide deck, a 1-page go-to-market plan. We'll talk about that next. A 1-page strategy, anything that is just short, simple, to the point. However you want to do it, make it super easy to share, use, and update. And the third recommendation for how to get your team to rally behind one voice, positioning, messaging, right? Make it consistent, is translate the positioning into a sales story or a sales deck that the sales team can use right away. Some of the material from the sales deck will naturally be useful for marketing messaging as well. All right, still phase 1. There's a lot to get done. Time for the go-to-market plan. We're still in phase 1. So most go-to-market plans I see are overcomplicated. Mine is simple, focused, and practical. If you want to see it, check out the show notes. I'm going to include a link to the article that talks about Customer Insights Roadmap, so you can read about this in an article. It's definitely shortened. I'm definitely not talking about as much in that article. That's why I decided to create this podcast episode, because I could give a little bit more color to things. But it also has the go-to-market plan visual in that article. So I'll include the link in the show notes. Most teams start at the very top of the funnel. Most marketing teams, they start screaming about their product, how cool it is, the problem they solve, the new features they just built, the partners they have, the awards they've won, etc. I've always recommended starting at the bottom of the funnel. That means your website copy, SEO content, right? How people immediately, the people that have the problem, they're searching for something to fix it. So that's how you show up in search. And that could be Google search. That could be AI tool search, right? ChatGPT. Now this stuff is meaningful across both regards. Case studies, testimonials. Make sure all of this is solid. That's at the bottom. Plug the leaks before you pour more water in at the top. Then move to middle funnel tactics. So social content where people follow you, newsletters you send to your subscribers, sales enablement materials for when sales is actively involved in conversations, things like that. And finally, focus on net new acquisition channels at the very top. How do you know which tactics to use? It's a question. Like, how do you know? I wish everyone had their magic answer, but you don't. There is no universal playbook for any company. The only way to really know is to learn more about where your customers hang out, online, offline. So coming back to that customer research, and it also depends on the size of your team and your team's skill set. Something I like to do is check what channels larger competitors are on and see what's working, what's not working. I find a lot of stuff actually that's not working because everyone's like, oh, look at the competition. Like they're on this channel, they're on that channel. We need to be on there too. But they're not doing it any differently. I think so. Then I think about why it's not working well and if there's a unique opportunity for us. That shouldn't 100% dictate what you do because the competitor is likely not the same size as you, doesn't have the same skill set on their team, and their customers are unique to them. But the principles are always the same. So start at the bottom of your go-to-market plan, focus there. And also, the second thing is do fewer things better. Those two principles stick. Of course, the go-to-market plan isn't complete without a content strategy, but that's a whole other conversation, a whole other can of beans. So listen to episode 203, Hashing Out the Perfect Content Strategy with Aaron Balza, and check out the article, This Content Strategy Canvas is What You've Been Missing. To see it visually, I'll include a link to that in the show notes. Couple more episodes if you want to go down the content strategy rabbit hole. Sorry. But if you do, these are really good. One of the top 5 episodes on the podcast has been episode 148, the 3 types of content you need for a creative and effective content strategy. Listen to that one. It's with Todd Clouser. And then also episode 191, why your CEO hates the marketing content you're producing and how to fix it with John Bonini. Listen to those too. Phase 2 of the Customer Insights Roadmap is guided execution. A marketing foundation deck and a go-to-market plan is only useful if it's applied and iterated on as you learn. Otherwise, it's just another doc collecting dust. So in this phase, I usually stay on as an advisor while my client executes on the go-to-market plan. The goal is to make sure the new positioning and messaging actually make it into the wild. So sales decks, outbound emails, social content, newsletters, conferences, events, all of it. This is where you start to look and sound like one company. The words your customers use in research are now the words on your site, in your emails, and in your SDR's team's calls. That consistency is what builds recognition and trust in the market. Execution isn't set it and forget it. So during this phase, usually 3 to 4 months, we'll review results and iterate quickly. We ask questions like, are prospects responding positively to the new messaging? Are our marketing efforts working? How do we know? Is the team actually using the messaging in sales conversations? How is it landing? So when I'm in this role, I'm like a go-to-market coach, keeping the go-to-market plan tight, removing distractions, and guiding the team towards the highest leverage activities. After you've been running the new go-to-market strategy for a few months, it's time to pause and evaluate. Phase 3 is growth analysis. This is about separating the signal from the noise. We'll review core growth metrics like inbound demo requests, pipeline health, sales cycle length, and win rates. And just like in phase 1, we go back to the source, your customers. So by interviewing new customers and ideal prospects, the goal is to check. Do they understand your new positioning and messaging? Do they repeat it back? Are people continuing to invest in what you're building? And just as important, I'll conduct a win-loss analysis with closed loss prospects. Their feedback actually uncovers exactly why some people don't buy. Maybe they weren't the right ICP. Maybe they didn't understand the unique value. Maybe they didn't believe the unique value. Maybe they just forgot about you, in which case this activity actually helps bring you back to top of mind. The beauty of this phase is that you're not scaling on assumptions. You're scaling what's actually working. So if positioning is off, we'll fix it. If channels are underperforming, we shift the focus. By the end of the growth analysis phase 3, you'll have a clear read on what to double down on versus what to ditch. Finally, phase 4, stack growth. So once you've nailed your marketing foundation, executed with consistency, and validated results through growth analysis, it's time to stack growth. This is where we might experiment further by adding new marketing channels, creating new content formats, or updating positioning and messaging to reflect new learnings, segments, or use cases. Too many companies jump here first. They try to scale without having the right foundation. And that's how you burn cash and confuse the market. By stacking growth last, you're building on solid ground. You know which channels are already working. You know which words and phrases actually resonate. And you know what your team can execute well. Each new layer of growth is now an extension of what you're already doing well. So let me bring this home. The Customer Insights Roadmap isn't fluff. It's not another 50-page strategy doc that sits on a shelf. It's not a theoretical framework. It's a practical, phased approach that moves you from deep customer understanding to go-to-market execution, to iteration, to growth clarity, to more momentum. And it all starts with the hard work. I'm not going to cover that up. I'm not going to say this is easy. It's hard work. Real conversations with your customers is not easy, but it is so important. Remember that story about my son at the very beginning? Just like I had to learn to speak my son's language to truly connect with him, you have to learn to speak your customer's language to truly connect with them. Not the language you think they speak, not the emotions you think they feel, the language they actually speak, the things they actually feel. That's where the magic happens. Thanks for listening. See you next week. Thanks for listening to this episode of Building with Buyers. New episodes drop weekly, so make sure you're following wherever you get your podcasts. You can find me on LinkedIn, Anna Furmanov. Visit my website to learn more about how to turn customer insights into positioning and messaging your buyers will understand, furmanovmarketing.com. And don't forget to leave a review if you're loving the show.